Welcome into another edition of the Gridiron Grind. It's a college football pod. It's 3-3 with Jimmy G. Jimmy, anything big happened this weekend?
Yeah. A couple things happened this weekend, man. I cut the grass.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Got a new edging technique.
Nice.
That's about it.
Yeah, it was pretty uneventful weekend for me as well.
Yeah, I was like, my phone just went off, and oh, dude, did you watch the Texas Alabama game?
I saw that.
They played.
Saw that score. I forgot about that game. Forgot it was on. Heard they looked good though.
Yeah, Desperate Housewives was on.
Yeah,
so
I
what we
did
did
catch
all
that
day.
marathon.
Yeah.
From what I heard, the best line from the weekend was Alabama and Nick Saban took a steer up the rear.
Pretty good.
So Horns look good, man. I was impressed.
Yeah. Defense, thing that impressed me, it impressed me last year too. This year they look even better, is how fast they looked to the football. I mean, Alabama, when Milroe wasn't getting pressured and sacked, Texas had 5 sacks that game, 9 tackles for loss. Texas flying always to the ball. They would get something. It seemed there'd be, 4 orange shirts at least, or 4 white shirts at least, running right over there, just getting them to them. And I thought, man, this defense looks pretty impressive. And like I said, Bama had 0 sacks, only 2 tackles for loss. That's a good offensive day.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. Quinn Ewers, night and day difference week 1 to week 2.
Yeah.
Hitting the deep ball.
The old bait and switch.
Yeah. 350 yards passed and 3 touchdowns. Like you said, he was never pressured. I think he was only hit a handful of times. No sacks. Did not turn the ball over. Never put the ball in jeopardy. Was on the money. I mean, he looked really good. The receivers, Sarkisian put those guys, and he picked on the Alabama had a couple of freshmen in the secondary. The safety, who's all-world 5-star, but he's still 18 years old playing in a game of that magnitude. Then there was a redshirt freshman, I think in the nickel spot, and Sarkisian just picked on those 2 guys. He did motions, and he did it to where he knew those guys would be covering whatever receiver he wanted to throw it to, and he just torched them. And it's just great game plan by Sarkisian. I'm sure they had worked on it since May. I'm sure they practiced and that's probably why they look so much better against Alabama than Rice, is they probably had run those plays every day since May. And defense.
You're right.
Defense for Texas. Holy cow, they're fast, they're big, they're physical. Very impressive. That's what gives me hope for the Longhorns long-term this season, because one thing we always talk about, and we definitely talk about with the Cowboys, is defense travels. You got a good defense. It goes on the road because your offense might have an off day and get shut down, but, defense is usually always travels. And Horns looked legit. Look legit to me. Unbiased opinion, of course. Unbiased.
No, I definitely think, obviously the scoreboard reflected it, but I think they looked like a better team, and I don't think it was really close. You could tell that Alabama had, they're Alabama, right? They got guys, you can watch guys do, but where their deficiencies were at the quarterback position in the secondary. Texas, like you said, Sark put them in a great position. They picked on them. Jatavian Sanders, they didn't have an answer for Sanders. 5 receptions, 114 yards. And they did not have an answer for A.D. Mitchell, the Georgia transfer. 3 for 78, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that guy, golly. And you're going, yeah, he transferred from Georgia. Oh, did he not play? No, he played.
Yeah.
Turns out. And he
played
just
in
said,
4 college football playoff games. He's caught a touchdown on all 4 of them.
Yeah, what a guy. I mean, and stud. And like I said, 3 catches, 2 of them for touchdowns. It's a pretty good ratio. So, yeah, that was, and like I said, but back to the defense. That's what's impressed me the most about the Horns the last couple years. And now those guys are another year older this year, is how fast they are on defense. This is Toto. He wanted to come in and get on the podcast.
What's up, Toto?
But Texas, 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. Like I said, Bama, no sacks, only 2 tackles for loss. Dallas Turner, I don't even know if he played. Obviously, he played, but you and I talked about it during the game. I said, I mean, Dallas Turner, they normally the guy is just everywhere. That guy's in the backfield causing all sorts of havoc. Nothing. That guy,
Yep.
he might as well not even have been there. He just non-existent. Great game plan and great job by the Texas O-line blocking him and making him basically just, like I said, just vanish.
Sark had a really good game plan. I rewatched the game, and because we had that conversation near the game. Where the heck is Dallas Turner at? And
Yeah.
on the rewatch, I watched him, and Texas did a good job of setting their plays up to make sure he wasn't involved. He made one significant play in the whole game, so it's a heck of an effort by Texas to get the win at Alabama. Excuse me. And like you said, Alabama's lucky it was only 10. It could have very easily been more than 10. Texas dropped a touchdown. That 4
Let's say
points.
Xavier Worthy. If Xavier Worthy got if Stickum wasn't outlawed, it'd have been way more than 10. Because they'd put it on Worthy, and it would have been
their last touchdown. Texas was in a prevent because they were up 10 with in the fourth quarter, and then Texas missed like 6-7 tackles, and that guy Black scored, and that one worked out for Alabama, but there's a couple things. I mean, it could have been 14-21 easily.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of it, Texas. I don't know if Texas. They were hoping they could win that game. I don't know if they believed they could win until that fourth quarter, until that Jaron Thompson interception.
Right.
Yeah,
because it's one of those, as a sports fan, when your team has been on the other side of that so many times, you just, as Cowboys, right? It's like if we're playing the Packers in the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers, you're going, I'm not comfortable unless we're up by 10 with 1 second left in the fourth, right? And even then, you're like, I really need the clock to end. Other than that, like you said, you don't really believe it until you're going, oh crap. Like, wait a minute. Okay. Then you start running the numbers, the hamster starts going in the wheel. You go,
right.
Oh, we really got this. And then you can kind of relax. And I noticed, you had your whole family and everybody over, and I noticed it was kind of that way. Everybody relaxed. Everybody kind of went, wait, this is real.
Yeah. I'm sitting there. I had this conversation with my dad in the summer, and I told him how much better Texas's roster was. He's a big Nick Saban fan, and
as a lot of people are, rightfully so.
He did not believe me. He just assumed it was Alabama, it was Nick Saban, and that was just how they were just going to win because they had Nick Saban. And I was just saying, you can't keep changing coordinators and your quarterback. You have no clue who your quarterback's going to be. Texas has everything set in stone. They're all back except for the running backs, but the defense is back. The offense is back. They added pieces. It's like Texas knows who they are, who they're going to be, and they're a year older. They've all started for a whole year besides the running backs. This Texas team they're good, and they're better than Alabama. They might not win. And then sure enough, they went in there and took care of business. And what a game it was. So Texas got the whole season in front of them. You go a little bit further southeast of Austin, College Station, lose at Miami. Miami has dominated the SEC so far. But the Aggies, now the quarterback, from what I saw, Wigman looked pretty good. He kept them in that game. But the defense is supposed to be, they've been talking about this defense and how big the recruiting class was 2 years ago. They gave up 48.
Yeah, and like you said, Wegman kept them in it. I mean, 336, 2 touchdowns, of course, 2 interceptions. Evan Stewart over almost 150 yards receiving, 142. No touchdowns, though, and Moose Muhammad, I think, only had 1 catch. You got to get – I mean, they have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country.
Yep.
I'm going, get those guys the ball, and Miami on there, Van Dyke, 374 and 5 touchdowns. He had 21 for 30. It's pretty good numbers, especially when you can get 5 touchdowns out of it, only missing 9 balls. They had a guy, Restrepo, go over 100. But the special teams touchdown, the 98-yard kickoff return, that one hurt. Like, I don't know. I mean, of course, we didn't have a defense when we had Petrino as our coach, and he was calling the plays and stuff. And so it's like we didn't have that great of a defense either. We just would kind of outscore you. We could play defense, but this A&M defense is supposed to be pretty vaunted, pretty good. They didn't lose everybody from that amazing recruiting class, but yeah, Miami. It might be one of those cases. Maybe Miami's just that good. I don't know, but I tell
Maybe
you,
so.
but
Maybe so. They look good.
Miami looked impressive, and it seems like A&M's finally got them a quarterback. Now, for some reason, they don't have the other pieces, and if you're an Aggie fan, you're kind of frustrated because you're like, what's it going to take, guys? What's it going to take?
Yeah. Like I said, offensively, the arrow's pointing up for the Aggies on offense. Don't know about the running game just yet, but when you talk about the quarterback, he looks to be pretty good. The group of receivers, but the good news is the SEC, especially the West, I think it's wide open. I mean, so you saw what Alabama did. LSU's already lost a big one to Florida State. Ole Miss is undefeated. Auburn barely squeaks one out against Cal. So that West is open.
Right now, it seems like everybody's chasing Alabama and Ole Miss, and I guess really Ole Miss, if you go by record, because they're undefeated. It's still Alabama and it's still Nick Saban, and you got to think, like we were talking. I'd hate to be an Alabama football player this week, and Lord, this weekend I'd hate to be a South Florida football player.
Absolutely.
I can't. That one's going to be rough. But yeah, like you said, pretty wide open, man. I think everyone's chasing still those two, Alabama and Ole Miss right now. But LSU goes from the conference championship, Brian Kelly's first year, to just getting waxed by a really good Florida State team. So it'll be interesting to see.
It will be. I mean, Arkansas is right
Hogs,
there.
We gotta win.
Arkansas is a big test this week. But it's open. I mean, it's anybody's ball game. It's going to be a competitive SEC West this year. And so plenty of time for people to get it together.
Yep.
All right, moving on to our questions of the week. You can get your questions sent to us. You can DM us on Twitter or on Instagram, Twitter. You can send us an email, go to our website and ask us at gridirongrindsports.com. So we love answering these questions of the week, and we keep getting them rolling in. So we appreciate you asking the questions. We got two this week that we're going to get to. First, I'm going to ask Jimmy. It is from Jared from Tom Bean, Texas.
Woo! Highway 11.
Do you think the Texas win over Alabama on Saturday says more about Texas being good, or is it more to Alabama's just overrated and not as good this year?
I'm going to say both, but I don't want to take anything away from Texas. I believe Texas was that good, and they showed it. I think Texas was the better team. And I think Alabama, Saban, the name Alabama, Nick Saban. I always said Nick Saban's worth at least 10 points just being the coach, right? And
yeah,
like Alabama, I think this is one of those. This may be the closest to a true rebuilding year. In the past, how's Alabama going to do losing all this talent? And then every year it's like they're not rebuilding, they're just reloading. This may be the first real rebuilding year for Alabama. I don't think Milroe is a quarterback. He may not be the quarterback the rest of the season. It wouldn't surprise me if you see a position change or he hits the portal, kind of like Arkansas and Malik Hornsby. It's like, buddy, you're not going to play quarterback, so you can either switch positions or, feel free to leave. But I think it's a little bit of both, but I don't want to take anything at all away from Texas because I think Texas was the better team. They showed it on the field. They passed the eye test. That's a large part of it too, is like, I don't care about paper. Show me on the field. Texas on the field was the better team. It wasn't close. So
I agree with you. I mean, Alabama.
I think it's Texas was that good.
Alabama has been so quarterback dependent the last several years. Jalen Hurts a little bit, but then when they went to Tua, they were very dependent on Tua. And then one season with Mac Jones, and then the last two seasons with Bryce Young. I mean, they've just had elite quarterback play, and they've ran it through the quarterback. They just don't have that this year. And there was reports that they really wanted to go. They had this massive offensive line, and they want to go run the ball and play good defense. But I think the problem is I don't think that offensive line, even though they're really big, I just don't think that they're the maulers that Alabama used to have when they were ground and pound. And I think Texas exploited that. That hey, Texas defensive line is very
Mm-hmm.
good, very good, and it's going to be hard for anybody to run the ball on them this year. Heck, that unit, everybody who played against Alabama, when they played against Rice, they only gave up 6 rushing yards to Rice. Alabama squeaked out 107. But that defense is really good for Texas, and I think Saban's just in a tweener because he doesn't know what to do. His quarterback play is not there, and his offensive line's not there to really rely on them to run the ball. So he's having to do a little bit of both. I am a little surprised they didn't use more of Milroe's legs. I figured that was the whole
That
reason
was,
he was
yes,
in there,
you're
like more
exactly right.
designed runs.
Trying to get something going to back that defense off because Milroe didn't scare Texas and doesn't scare
No.
me through the air. I mean, last year Arkansas hurts Bryce Young. Milroe comes in, like Arkansas was in the game till Milroe broke a 75-yard run. He didn't beat us with his arm. You know what I mean? So I'm going, I was surprised too that they didn't move Milroe, like you said, design runs, bootlegs, stuff like that, stuff to get him ball in space. But yeah, he did not impress me
No,
at quarterback.
no. So
Pretty good question. Pretty good
Yep.
question from Highway 11 there. Creed, I got one from you. Feel bad for picking this one, man. I just kind of little underhand, Palestine. This is Jeremy from Palestine, Texas, home of Adrian Peterson. I just like to throw a little jab at you. Do you see a
here's my favorite Adrian Peterson stat from high school. Jimmy, this
let's
is
hear it.
true stat. He one time in high school carried the ball 6 times. I believe this was all in the first half. He had 6 carries for 180 yards, 6 touchdowns.
It's pretty good.
It wasn't bad.
Pretty good numbers. Pretty good numbers. And then
his team was 2-8
across the river.
His team was 2-8 his senior year, I believe. They were not good, but they probably had him and didn't want to push.
That's it.
Didn't want to end his career too early.
Yeah. So Jeremy from Palestine says, do you see a scenario where A&M ponies up the money, pay out Jimbo this season? I bet Jeremy's probably an A&M fan because that seems that's kind of an odd question 2 games in. And I know, yeah, let's hear this, Trey. What do you
listen? Those A&M fans, they're not happy. They're frustrated because they thought they were sold a bill of goods and that hadn't really came to fruition. I want to say this without sounding like I'm dogging on A&M, but it is what it is. I don't know how to say it. A&M, they're that school. They desperately want to be a top tier college football program. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody wants that. A&M, I think they kind of were fooled into they thought they kind of were the Johnny Manziel era, moving to the SEC. But again, they still have not even won the SEC West, let alone the SEC. They haven't won a national championship till 1939, and they just are willing to do anything to get over the hump and be a top-tier college football program. And so what do? When you're desperate like that and you have a lot of money and you have a lot of resources and you're in the state of Texas, you go spend a lot of money. You throw a lot of money at a guy who's won a national championship. Well, he's had one really good year, and that was in 2020, in a shortened season. But outside of that, I think he's really kind of underachieved. And now I think A&M fans are starting to see that he's probably – there's a reason people in Florida State were happy he was leaving because he kind of ran that program in the ground after the Jameis Winston years and national title. So I don't know if it happens this year. Jimmy, it's a lot of money. It's $78 million he's owed. And I know A&M probably could come up with it. But you have to think at some point this is a business, and that's just not a business savvy decision. I think he has 8 years left on his contract. He's owed 78 million guaranteed of that 8. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. If they make a bowl game, last year we went 5-7. If he gets to 6-6 and they at least make a bowl game, the powers that be, I don't know. I just don't think. And if he wins 7 or 8 games, I definitely don't think they do it because they'll point to progress. Mm-hmm. But I think what Texas A&M did was an experiment for all these other universities. Don't do what A&M just did. Don't give a coach $100 million over 10 years. That's way too much money. It's way too long. And it's all guaranteed. The worst thing A&M did was make it all guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And so he gets that money regardless, unless he gives them cause to be fired.
Mrs. Rosie, she says hi. So, yeah, you're exactly right, Trey. And if I'm an Aggie, or go ahead and finish what you were going to say.
Well, that's basically it. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see anything like this when it comes to hiring a coach that hasn't accomplished anything at your school. Now, if Nick Saban, if they said, hey, Nick Saban, we want you to stick around another 10 years and we're going to give you $100 million guaranteed for the next 10 years, that's different. He's been there. He's won 7 national championships and he's done everything he's done in Alabama. That's completely different. When you're talking about you're going and doing a coaching search and you're hiring a guy to come to your school, I think the Aggies were kind of a guinea pig and tried this experiment, and I think it's backfired on them. They're paying a lot of money, and he has a worse record. He has 3 less wins through the same amount of games than Kevin Sumlin did. So when you talk about what you're paying, Jimbo Fisher is making way more than Kevin Sumlin was. You're not getting any kind of return on your investment. So I just don't think you'll ever see a contract like that again. And, if I was an Aggie, if I was an A&M fan, I'd be very frustrated because you try, you just want to be, like I said, they really want to be in that top tier and they're willing to do anything and try anything. And it kind of, as a rival, makes me laugh a little bit because they want it so bad, but everything they try, they just can't get over that hump.
Yeah, and they have the money. They have the money to spend to be one of the top tier programs, but it's like they just it's like, I'm going to go out. I want a Ferrari. And they go out and get a Ferrari. Well, the Ferrari that they get has engine trouble.
Yeah.
So they're going to get rid of that one. Well, then we're going to get a Lamborghini. Hey guys, look, I'm driving down the street in the Lamborghini. Well, now the Lamborghini's got engine trouble. They bring over Jimbo Fisher, who I think is another one of these Saban assistants, McElroy, who's just McElwain, who's a better assistant than they are coach. Like, Jimbo wins a national championship with a quarterback who wanted to go to Texas, but Texas wouldn't return his phone calls. It's not like Jimbo got this guy and really worked him up. We talk about Les Miles the same way. Jimbo didn't develop Winston into this and da-da-da. They're lucky they got Winston because Texas wouldn't return his phone calls. Okay, A&M makes their bed with Sumlin, and granted, that guy took enrollment, the money, shot A&M up through the roof, right? So that's now they've got all this money.
Well, because he had Johnny Manziel.
Yes, I know. And so then that goes sour, okay, after Manziel leaves, and then he promises all those quarterbacks they can all start. They all leave. Well, then they do the same thing to Jimbo Fisher that they said, oh, God, this was a terrible deal with Sumlin. They do the same thing with Jimbo Fisher. If I'm an Aggie fan, I'm frustrated because, like I said, you've got the money to spend. You're a good school. You've got football tradition. You've proven you can put a winning product on the field, but you're going, man, we just can't get it right. That's so frustrating. How do these other schools just get it right seemingly all the time, and we can't? And when we do, it's like we get right up there, and then the engine trouble. So it's frustrating. I don't think they'll buy him out this year. I
don't think it doesn't make any business sense.
No.
And A&M's got to be frustrating. I mean, national title was in 1939. They haven't played for a conference championship since 1998. It's 25 years. Until the baseball team finished in the top 4 in the College World Series a couple of years ago, them and Northwestern were the only 2 schools since World War II not to finish in the top 4 of men's football, basketball, or baseball. But the baseball broke that streak a couple of years ago.
There you go.
I think in summer of 22, A&M made the World Series and finished in the Final 4. So they broke that streak. So it's not just football. It's been a lot of sports that they've spent the money for and hadn't had the results. So I think they're stuck with Jimbo. Their best chance is for Jimbo to somehow figure it out. But the more his career goes on, the more it looks like Jameis Winston was the exception, not the rule. And
100%.
The further he gets away from that. So
maybe Jimbo will retire, or maybe someone will want Jimbo and they'll be willing to pay some of that.
The problem is if he retires, you still owe him the money. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you still got to give it to him. So,
I think. I don't really know how that's contract, but it's guaranteed. And if he decides to retire, I'm sure his agent made sure he was going to get that guaranteed money. So I don't know. I think it was it looks like a very bad contract on A&M's part.
Yeah. Great for Jimbo, though.
Great for Jimbo. Thanks for the question, Jeremy from Palestine. Week 3 bets. We had a pretty good week. Overall, we both have, NFL, we had really good weeks, I should say. In our NFL pod that comes out on Thursday, we had a good week. And our college football, I was 3-1 last week. Jimmy was 1-2-1. So 5-4 on the season for me. Jimmy 3-4. Early, we're right there. It's last year we got off to that hot start, so we're still trying to find our footing. It's a lot of new faces, a lot of new teams that you're still trying to figure out who they are, and that's made it a little bit tougher. So, I got 4 this week, Jimmy. How many you got?
I got 5, but 2 are the same game, so I can rapid fire.
Okay,
we can.
Well, all right. I'll start. I got one on Friday night. Friday night was good to me last week with Kansas. They covered easy against Illinois. I got a Friday night game again this week. It's Army at UTSA down there in San Antonio. I like the under 46 here. UTSA, they've only scored 34 points total over the first 2 games against Houston and against Texas State. I mean, so 34, what is that, 17 a game? Not a lot of points. Quarterback Frank Harris, I'm a big fan of, but he's banged up. And this game's Friday, so it's a short week for him, and he's got to get ready to play, and he's banged up. Army and the new clock rules, it just smells like under. And if UTSA's offense isn't clicking yet, I like Army UTSA under 46 Friday night.
I like it. Georgia State, Charlotte. Georgia State minus 7.5. They handled UConn last week pretty handily. I think they keep rolling. Charlotte's coming off a 38-20 loss to Maryland. Over could be in play here too, with Charlotte scoring in the 20s consistently, Georgia State in the high 30s. But I think Georgia State handles them 7.5. Buy it to 7 if you want. But I think Georgia State minus 7.5 against Charlotte.
Like it. Saturday, I got 3 Saturday games. Kansas State minus 5 at Missouri. Big fan of the Wildcats. I got them playing for the Big 12 championship this year. I mean, their offense is clicking. Quarterback Will Howard, he's looking good. 2 weeks in a row. Even Troy's a good football team, but they took care of business last week. Missouri has really struggled so far, and they've struggled really against Middle Tennessee State last week. So I like Kansas State, even though it's on the road favorite, I'm a little weary of, but I just feel like the gap is bigger than the minus 5. So give me Kansas State minus 5 at Missouri.
Okay, for my next one, this is my one. I've got two bets, one game. Tennessee and Florida. Tennessee minus 6.5 and under 59. Florida's not very good. Utah showed us that. Tennessee's got a very competitive defense that's in the swamp. I don't think that matters, not this year anymore. I don't think Florida can handle Tennessee. I can see Tennessee running away with this and then just keeping it on the ground and just grinding clock out. So Tennessee minus 6.5 and the under 59.
Yeah, Florida's terrible. That
Yeah,
guy, I don't know if Billy Napier survives a year, to be honest.
that's another one, man. Yeah, don't know.
Okay, my third one. I got Penn State, another road favorite, which I'm not a fan of taking road favorites, but Penn State minus 14 at Illinois. I've seen Illinois play both their first two games. I have a
Ooh,
regular season win total over Illinois, and I hate it. They're not good,
yeah,
and I'm going to try
they're
to
gonna
get
have to pull some upsets like this to hit that.
exactly. And I'm going to try to. They're 1-1. They barely squeaked by their week one opponent. Got handled by Kansas. I'm gonna try to get some of that regular season win total money back because I don't think they're hitting 6.5, getting 7 wins. Penn State's pretty good, and they got a chance in the
Yeah.
Big Ten. I mean, Michigan's really good. I don't think Ohio State is as good as everybody thought. So I think Penn State's got a chance, and they host Michigan this year. So I think Penn State's gonna try to make a statement. First conference game for the Nittany Lions. I think they're gonna put it on Illinois. They're gonna throw it all over the place, just like Jaden Daniels did for Kansas. Drew Allers, pretty good quarterback for Penn State. So I like Penn State to cover on the road minus 14.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, Penn State offensively pretty good. They can put some
Yep.
points up. Defensively, really clicking. And like you said, Illinois, man, last year, what a great season. What a magical season. And then it's just gone. It's like everybody figured them out, and they made one. It seems like they just made one adjustment, and Illinois is like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and it ain't working. So
No,
I
and they
like
just
that
can't
one.
run the football like they could last year.
Yeah.
And that's made a big difference.
Mm-hmm. My next bet, West Virginia, Pittsburgh. This one's a pick 'em. This one I went back and forth on. West Virginia, I thought, well, side with the home team, right? Okay, so if home gives you 3 points, well, then makes it a pick 'em. So I'm sitting here going, well, Pittsburgh should neutral site be favored then, right? So give me Pittsburgh, pick 'em at West Virginia. Pittsburgh coming in to me is the better team.
I agree.
I just don't. It seemed kind of funny to me that it was a pick 'em.
Yep.
But this one, I think Pittsburgh's the better team, and I think they win. And like I said, if you said it when we were talking about this, if you think Pittsburgh's the better team, then you're getting a great line,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
take it. I think Pittsburgh's the better team. So give me Pittsburgh to pick 'em right now, and it may shift. So I'd go ahead and lock it in as a pick 'em. Lock it in as a pick 'em. Pittsburgh, West Virginia. Give me Pittsburgh.
See, I was confused by this line, and I agree. I think Pittsburgh's underrated. And maybe this is one of those teams that Vegas hadn't caught up with on Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's pretty good. I was expecting this to be more in like the -6 range for Pittsburgh, where like Vegas is probably thinking West Virginia might keep it within a touchdown, begging you to take Pittsburgh -6 so if they win by a touchdown. But then it comes out as a pick 'em. I didn't understand that. I think you're getting a pretty good line. I would
think
like
so too.
Pittsburgh. My last one is I'm going with the fighting Jimmy Garcias. The Arkansas Razorbacks at home -8 against BYU. Arkansas manhandled BYU last year in Provo. Now it's in Fayetteville. This line, Jimmy, when it opened up Sunday night, was -11. People are hammering BYU for whatever reason. I don't know. I didn't even know Mormons really bet from Utah. I can't imagine, strict gamblers doing that because Arkansas is bigger, they're faster, they're more physical. Now BYU is solid. I just don't think. I think Arkansas is another class up for BYU, and I think last year that was on display when Arkansas manhandled them. I think they do it again. I think Arkansas wins by at least 2 touchdowns. Don't take them struggling against Kent State for 1/2 of play. Don't even consider that, because it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get excited for the Kent States of the world. But I think this is a night game in Fayetteville. The Razorbacks will be calling them hogs. I think Arkansas is going to be fired up. First home night game of the season. And I think they take care of business at home against BYU. Arkansas -8.
I like it. Yeah, I think so too. Rocket Sanders Didn't play last week, and they're arguably KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders might be the best 1-2 punch in the country. So not having Rocket Sanders is a big blow. And so I think he's going to play this weekend. And so, yeah, I think BYU had a better team last year.
Agreed.
With the quarterback, Paul, than they do this year with the journeyman Slovis. So
I agree.
I agree. I think we take care of business. I like that bet. For my last bet, Vanderbilt, UNLV, under 59.5.
Need the Commodores anchored down.
Yeah. 60, need Vanderbilt to win. But I think 60 points for two kind of bad teams that's just a lot of points.
That is a lot of
neither
points.
Team's good offensively, neither team's good defensively. That's just a recipe for the under. A lot of incomplete passes, a lot of trying to run the ball to set up the pass. I mean, 60 points is a lot. Give me the under, Vanderbilt and UNLV under 59.5.
It's a good point. I don't know if either team gets to 30.
Yeah, I'm going. This could be, you could win this by almost 20 points. This could be a 3-score win.
Yeah. All right. I like it. We got, 5 for you, 4 for me?
Yeah, 5 for me.
9 total. We're hovering. We're right there, 500. We're about to get going. Takes a couple of weeks. Sometimes, like last year, you had a lot of carryover teams where going into the season, you knew a lot about a lot of these teams already. This year, it's been a lot of newness. And when you get a season like this, it takes a little bit to know exactly what you're going to get. And eventually, we get caught up. So we're right on that 500 line for 2 weeks. I'll take that. I think we're going to have a good week this week and get the momentum going just like we did last year. We're the hottest gambling show on YouTube last year, college football. So we are right now in NFL. Yeah. NFL, we're the hottest gambling show in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
We couldn't have picked a better week 1. So make sure you tune in for that. That comes out on Thursday. College Football Pod comes out Wednesdays. NFL and Dallas Cowboys Pod comes out on Thursday. Of course, we had our first post-game show right after the Cowboy game. We'll do that again. That was a good time. Had a lot of interaction.
Fun.
So we'll do that after every game. And Jimmy G's Big 3 coming out at gridirongrindsports.com. And, of course, Coffee with Creta Saturday morning. So, Jimmy, another great show in the books. It's going to be a great weekend again of some football. And we will see you guys on Thursday for the Cowboys NFL Pod right here on Apple Podcasts and YouTube channel, the Gridiron Grind YouTube channel, and at Apple Podcasts. Jimmy, we'll see you, buddy.
See you, man. Go Hog.